We got the music. Do you think that Hell's Kitchen has good deviled eggs? This is Systematic Geekology. We are the priest of the geeks. I am one of your geekologists, Kevin Schaeffer, here with one of my fellow geeks, Evan Garcia. Evan, how are you today?
Hey Kevin, how you doing, man? I'm doing pretty well. Glad to be on to talk what we've been watching in the What's News without the question mark.
It is. Well, this is another What's News episode, which we have some great stuff to talk about today. We are going to be hitting primarily on Daredevil Born Again later on, and then first, after geeking out on, we're going to talk about the Righteous Gemstones, which I'm really excited for because I don't think we've done an episode on that before, and I know you and I are fans, so not that I can think of. Maybe like at least not that I've done. So I am looking forward to that. But yeah, and we'll also just talk about everything new in the geek culture or stratosphere. So very glad to have you all here today. So Evan, before we get into any of those topics, what else have you been geeking out on lately?
I have been geeking out on something very specific, and I didn't think I was going to like it, but I became completely obsessed because my wife and my daughter were completely obsessed, and it's the Squid Game challenge, the game show. That's the Squid Game show. I got completely hooked. Like, I don't usually like game shows anymore because they're all the same and they're very high emotions. I've got nothing wrong with them. I just haven't seen them in forever because they're all the same. But this one hooked me in because the production quality was just like the show, like the sets and in my head. I was like, oh my gosh, the planning that had to go into this. There were 500 contestants and they were doing the games and like, I was impressed. And then I became invested in the different characters and how do you carve a storyline from 500 contestants and then you bring it down into one. Because from what I know, the other game shows are there's like 20 people or so, maybe 50 people. This 500, 456, whatever. And the person that I wanted to win didn't win, but they played the game right. They played the game good, and they deserved to win. But I was like, dang.
And just to be clear, unlike the show, you don't have to risk your life to play, do you?
No, but it's kind of cheesy. Like on most of the games, they like when the people get eliminated, they get these little squibs on their chest, and they squirt.
Oh wow!
And then the people kind of get all dramatic and they fall over. It's like, okay, I could do without that cheesiness. Like I didn't need that.
Yeah.
But there's a part where they recreate the glass bridge challenge from the show. Ooh, that one, like when they quote unquote died, you felt it. Like you thought that they died. It's like they're gone. It's like, oh, that one was kind of intense.
That's wild. Like, again, it's just so. I know you've raved about Squid Game before, and it is just like such a cultural phenomenon. And I love that out of this like dystopian, like Hunger Games-esque kind of show, that a game show has evolved from that. It's fascinating, but like,
wild, right?
Yeah. That's awesome though. But I love that it's fun. Like, I mean, you and your family are playing. That's really cool. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yep.
Very cool. Well, on my end, so. Still Severance season 2. I know, like, now that season is almost over, I'm sure we'll do an episode on that soon because I know Will watches it. I think Pang does. I can't really, like, we have several hosts who do. So it has been a bonkers season. Like, I mean, it's always been a brilliant show, but they have gone in just so many unexpected directions in this season with both storylines and exploring characters that were more supporting that they've given entire episodes to. And just, like, you never really know what to expect each season or where it's going and how it impacts the world building. It's just a brilliant show all around. So I think that. And then also on an Apple note, I binged it in like 2 weeks. Both seasons of Shrinking, which is a fantastic show.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. Like, have you seen it or did you watch Ted Lasso or anything?
No.
Okay, yeah.
I know what it is though. I've been wanting to see it.
It's great. It's great. And like they just announced for season 3 that Jeff Daniels is joining the cast, which is fantastic.
Shoot.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. Yeah, so that'll be it. But it's a delightful show. I think if you're, fans of Ted Lasso, it's a lot of the same creators. They just switch out Jason, so it's Jason Segel instead of Sudeikis. But yeah, it's a great fusion of comedy and drama. I mean, like there are some criticisms toward it, the plotting is a little too ridiculous, or that it kind of like tackles on too many things. But I found it to be I mean, I would love to do an episode on that, but like I find it a really fascinating look at just grief and how it processes it and how it doesn't always make sense the ways we respond to it. And it's not meant to be realistic, but it also says really profound things about grief and the human condition. And it does it in a really charming manner. The characters are just people I would love to spend time with, like if they were real. And
Nice.
I just love their interactions. It's a phenomenal cast. I just really like the writing and how, again, it fuses comedy and drama really well. So I thoroughly enjoyed it. I binged through it, and now I'm missing it because I finished it so quickly. I'll be able to watch it live once we get to season 3. So those are some of the big things to geeking out on. Yeah. So,
yeah, that's Severance
cool.
to season 2, man. The memes are coming in fast and hard with those memes. I love it,
dude. And I was talking with some people who haven't watched the show yet, and like I was explaining the concept to them, and they were like, "Okay, now a lot of the memes and stuff I'm seeing make a lot more sense." Like I didn't spoil the show for them, but I gave them the basic concept, and now they have a better understanding of like what innies and outings mean. It's like. It's like last night I was at my Star Wars RPG group, and like 2 of the members they don't work at the same hospital, but they're both hospice chaplains, and they were talking about like some of the people they each know and through work and all that, and they're just like in this conversation, and I was like, "Oh, your outies are talking about your innies right here." Yeah. So they like that, but it is a great show, so we'll definitely tackle that.
Right on,
Sweet.
right on.
Well, right on. So. Getting into the main topics of this episode. Also before we do that, just want to give a shout out to all of our Patreons and anyone who supports the show. We super appreciate it. And if you're watching on YouTube, we're getting into spring weather, so he could revive his promise of frolicking through a field of flowers if we get 50 likes on this video or any of our videos. So literally all you have to do if you're watching this is hit the like button. I know it gets annoying when YouTubers say that. Like I get annoyed when, but it is not hard. You just hit the button and Will record himself frolicking through a field of flowers. So if you don't want to miss that, make it happen and make our dreams come true. But we sincerely appreciate your support. So thank you all for being here. Let's get on to the main topic. So, Evan, I think the first one we're going to talk about is the Righteous Gemstones, because the show just returned for its 4th and final season with the premiere this week. And I'm very excited to talk about this one. Look at that. And so, we are going to get into spoilers for this and for Daredevil today, because we can't really talk about this without getting it. So there's your first spoiler, is that Bradley Cooper was the guest of honor in this week's episode.
He's in it.
We'll get
Yes,
into
he's
more.
in it.
Yes. So and what a brilliant, we'll get into that fully. But first, I want to ask, so what's your background with this show? This, for people who don't know, this is and the best way to describe it is a pastor action comedy from Danny McBride and his collaborators about a mega church family that runs this like mega church empire in South Carolina. And I describe it as like a Coen Brothers film in TV form, because it draws so much influence from that. Like it's the same kind of black comedy and crime noir. So we'll get into more of the plot mechanics. But Evan, what's your background with the show? Like, when did you start watching?
I started watching right when it started, because I came off of I had a coworker that he was all about the show, the Vice Principals show.
Yeah.
You know that show, the one that Danny McBride did previous to this. So he got me hooked on that show, and then this show came on like a month later. So I was able to watch them kind of back to back. I was able to watch Vice Principals and then start this, and I loved it since the beginning. I just love it since the beginning. Yeah.
And that's awesome that you were watching from the beginning because, yeah, like I had known about it for a while. I think it premiered in 2019, and then there was like a brief break in between the seasons with COVID and all that, and then with the strikes. But like,
I
they
didn't
had
think it
three
was coming
seasons.
back. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And so, but I only started watching back in December, and I fell in love with it right away and binged most of it over the holidays. And then I think I finished season 3 in like early January. So I fell in love with it, but and I've not seen Vice Principals. I'm going to go to that next because I again like that's the thing about like David McBride. A friend and I were talking about this. Is like he was known for a lot of the like the Judd Apatow comedies and stuff like that, like kind of the stoner
Hmm.
ones, and like was always super funny. But and I knew he was a screenwriter on the new Halloween movies, because like one of
Oh
his
yeah.
longtime collaborators, yeah,
Hmm.
David Gordon Green directed those, and so they wrote those
Yeah.
together. And so like I knew he was a writer as well, but like until I watched Righteous Gemstones, I just didn't know like how phenomenal a storyteller he is. He's just brilliant as a writer director, and I just fell in love with this show for multiple reasons. I mean, it's obviously hilarious, and it's just like, that you get into the meat of this family, which is Eli Gemstone, played by John Goodman, is the patriarch and the head of this megachurch, and then his 3 adult children are Jesse, played by Dan McBride.
Adult.
The go, yes, the go, like, oh yes, I love it, like. And then Judy, played by Edie Patterson, who's also a writer on the show.
Great.
It's fantastic. Probably I think the 2 funniest characters might be her and Baby Billy, played by Walton Goggins, which we'll get into as well.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then Kelvin, the younger son, played by Adam Devine, and like all of them are so funny. But I think what I really like, right from the pilot, what I liked was, okay, here's a show that could easily just make fun of like people in the megachurch environment and in like Christian circles in general. And instead, it has like as funny as and absurd as it is at times, it also has a lot of depth to the characters because like so for instance, like I mean, in the pilot, a lot of it after you do the intro of the characters and you get to know this family a little bit and they all live on this major estate that the Gemstones have had for a while, and
Yeah.
because Eli is very rich, and you get a little insight into their lives, and then at the end of the episode, Jesse is blackmailed by 2 masked gunmen in a mall parking lot because they have a sex tape of him that they're going to expose, and you think it's going to like just the season would end with just it getting out and like the family gets taken down and all it would just be this. But it handles everything so smart, like in such a smart way, where you don't really know where it's going to go, and it takes a lot of twists and turns, and it is both again comedy and drama, and again it very much like tackles the absurdities with, particularly with megachurch environments and like the hypocrisy of a lot of like big celebrity pastors, and it intentionally does that. But it also gives a lot of humanity and depth to each characters, and you continually fall in love with them, like both with their faults and with their strengths, and they add new villains each season. It just like it's funny. It's like I said, very noir as well. Yeah, I just really loved it from the beginning. What are some of your favorite before we get into the season 4 premiere? What were some of your favorite characters or favorite moments leading up to this season?
Wow. I haven't seen him since the premiere, but I
Mhm.
remember in the previous in season 3, the whole thing about Baby Billy trying to get that TV show off the ground.
Oh my gosh,
That
yes.
whole kerfuffle, that whole craziness, that was great. And but this whole show, like you said, it's so easy to to kind of make fun of the Christians, or which to be honest, it kind of does, but
Yeah.
it does it with heart, and he makes fun of it, but then he slides in the truth, like, yeah, these people are humans too. They're trying to deal with this stuff. Sure, this is exaggerated, and hey, look, if you were probably in this position with all this money and all these people, you're probably doing the same thing too, man. So, um, and one thing that my coworker at the time said that he's when he first got me into it, he goes, he, he said that Danny McBride's theme, that there's a theme that he likes to do with all his movies and his TV shows, is that he likes to bring the he likes to bring people that people put on pedestals and humanize them. So with like Eastbound and Down, the baseball players, the athletes, they do some crazy stuff because they're just human too. Vice principals, people put teachers on pedestals too for the right reasons. However, they do crazy stuff as well. Like there's a crazy world of teacherness, you know. It's like so this is like his magnum opus almost, like you saw it coming that he was going to tackle the Christians, and especially this a certain kind of Christianity that is loud and big and prosperity gospel, stuff like that. So yeah. So I am excited to get into the spoilers for this episode. So what do you
And
think
see
about
that
this episode?
Oh, it was phenomenal, and I just want to say that is a great point too about like I like that you said it perfectly about
Uh-huh.
how it analyzes because it's the like it's like if you were to make a show about Joel Osteen, like I mean you could just make fun of him the entire time, but it's more and I
Right,
mean
it'll get
rightfully
old.
so because
Yeah.
rightfully so, but it's like that gets boring. What exactly what
Hmm.
it is like you said. It takes like the megachurch prosperity gospel themes and really makes it compelling ensemble. And I agree. Baby Billy. So Baby Billy, played by Walton Goggins, is the brother-in-law of Eli. And like when you meet him in the show, you know he has a wife who's like younger than the adult children in the show, and like and he's this older dude. And like also I love that. So Walton Goggins is also on this season of The White Lotus, and so like I love that like Sunday nights belong to Walton Goggins right now because I watch Righteous Gemstones and then watch White Lotus, and he's on both now. But
Cool.
yeah, in season 3, he creates a show because they have so much money, they have like a whole network through the Gemstones, and so he pitches a show to them called Baby Billy's Bible Bonkers, which is just Family Feud with Bible trivia. And I was on the floor. Like, that's the other thing about
Yeah.
the show is like, because like, I watch a lot of comedy and stuff, but like, if I'm not with people, it's rare that I can like be bust out laughing watching something by myself. And this show does that, and it has that
It was
ability.
so perfectly
It
him,
was,
and the
oh
way
my
he did
gosh.
it, I was just like, and the song that he sings
But
later.
yes, I have that on a
Yeah.
playlist. Like there'll be a payday. Like I'm not even gonna try to sing it because like just go look it up on YouTube. It's brilliant. But yeah,
Yeah.
so a lot of great stuff. But yeah, let's get into the season premiere. So again, this is the 4th and final season, and in the premiere, this was a wild not like none of I don't think anyone was expecting a full
I didn't
on
expect it.
opening in the because like the show has done flashback episodes before, but they've all been about Eli's younger self and Elsa. So Eli's a widow, and so the flashback episodes have
Oh
mainly
yeah.
served to dig into his wife is foundational to who he becomes as a person and his children, and so we get to know her in the flashback episodes, and we get a very young Eli episode. We get several flashback episodes of Judy, Jesse, and Calvin as kids. But this episode, which opens in the Civil War in Virginia. So right off the bat, we're like, whoa, we're going back to. So you think it's going to explore the origins of the Gemstone family, and we open at a small church in Virginia. So obviously, since this is a Confederate state, the preacher there is giving a very like pro Confederacy sermon, and we wonder if like, oh, is this like one of the Gemstones, like the founder? Is this the so we meet this and he's talking about how, oh, it's an honor that your husbands are out fighting the good fight and all this stuff, and he gives this like this message, and then has this kind of like lust in his eyes as he's collecting
Mm-hmm.
money from congregants, and it's gonna go to himself, obviously. And so you're like, oh yeah, this is a very gemstone thing to do, like, and it like feeds into that. But then a huge twist, and like, so the congregation leaves, and then there's this guy hanging in the background, and he starts talking, and even before
He
they show
comes
his
out of the
face,
pew like he was
comes out
sleeping
of a
there or
pew.
something.
Yes, he just comes out of a pew there to go like talk about the brain, like after he's collected all the money, and
Yeah.
and you're, even before he shows his face, you're like, is that Bradley Cooper? And
I was
sure
like,
enough,
who
it
is that?
is. Like,
Mhm.
oh my gosh. Anyway, so we find out that this is actually the gemstone AJ, and what happens is he kills the minister and steals the money there. And right as he's about to leave, the Confederate squadron knocks on the church door and tells, and they assume that he's the preacher of the church, because obviously he's not going to let him in and show the dead body there. So they think he's the preacher, and they all ask him if, or they tell him he's been assigned to be the chaplain for the Confederacy in this part of the state, and so he's like, okay, yeah, let me go get my things. Because initially he's trying to turn it down, but then he hears that it pays well too. And this guy's the ultimate con. Right, $50 a month and free meals. So, which is a lot back then. So being the con man that he is, he goes and messes up the minister's face more, and writes a letter saying that they like to fake his identity and say that that he's actually the priest, and that a man named, what was the gemstone's first name? Was it? Oh, it was Elijah. Yeah. So this is Elijah Gemstone, the founder. Yeah. So he frames it all and like leaves the preacher there for dead. Goes off the Confederacy, and now and this is where some of the funniest moments I think in the show come about, where he's trying, this guy with no minister experience whatsoever is trying to pretend to be a chaplain. And you see echoes of Jesse here. You see echoes of kind of a younger Eli. But some of the moments here where he's having to pray for some of the fallen soldiers, I don't know about you, but this is one of the moments I was just like on the floor laughing, where there's a man dying and he's asking Elijah to pray for him, and he's like, all right, well, just give me a minute. I'm trying to think of the right words here. And by the time he thinks of something, the guy dies.
He's gone. Oh my gosh. Oh.
Like, this is the most righteous gemstones thing he could possibly do. And Bradley Cooper gives a phenomenal performance here. I read too that he had never seen an episode of Gemstones before, and he didn't want to before until this episode was finished filming, because he wanted to come in blind and just be able to tackle the character on his own. And it's so funny because like he taps into so much, and a lot of it is in the writing and the directing, but still he taps into so much of, again, this is like something Jesse would do, a lot of his behavior. and this guy is out like gambling and drinking. And when another soldier says like, that's odd behavior for a minister, he fires back and says like, hey, are you trying to insult the man of God? Because like you could go to hell that way. Like, and he just like, and the way he does it, I was like, this is such a Jesse Gemstone thing. So I love how they mirror that. But then, like you were talking about earlier, and how this show does both absurd, over-the-top comedy and also gives its characters extreme sincerity. So after, fumbling his way and like BSing his way through his role as like a chaplain here and trying not to be exposed, and and then he gives like a 2-minute sermon, and he's like, okay, are we done here? I think that was good.
That was I could not sit through that. It was so hard to sit through. I was laughing and crying, but not crying in a good way.
Oh my gosh, that was like, it's just one of the best moments. But after all
So
of that,
good.
and then he kills another guy for money. He's still this horrible person. But then at the very end, when a bunch of soldiers are about to be executed, he has this shift where he gives a very sincere message to them, and it really does like come from his heart.
Yeah.
And he's like trying to think of the right thing to say. And then at the very end, he starts reading this like gold sealed Bible, and you get that he is like on the road to a path of redemption. And I love this quote you pulled up. Oh, I did already. It's done. I've been praying the whole time silently in my mind. Yeah, that is a quote from this
I
episode.
choked on my coffee when I
Oh
watched
my
when I heard
gosh!
that
Like
line. I was
I know I
because that's something that I would have said when I was younger.
yes,
When
yes,
like when I when I was not comfortable praying with people,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
like
yeah,
I related to what he was like. This whole show, great to recap, by the way, of the episode. It was a great to recap. Those were all the great story beats. Those were, but the show had like it had me laughing, it had me
yeah.
crying, it had me feeling things I haven't felt in a while. Like
Mhm.
I felt mad, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, it's my a cage stage coming back again!" Like, like for some reason the show didn't do it, but this episode in the time frame in the whole period piece part of it
Mhm.
kind of kind of felt more real. So I was like, oh no, you can't pretend to pray with somebody. Like, how dare you? Like, but then the other side of me was laughing so hard, because I related to it. The second, it's just how absurd he's that he is. So the whole episode, I was like two minds, and I had to like reconcile with some of the stuff that I was thinking about it. But overall, I loved it. Bradley Cooper's portrayal of the a good con man that, like you said, that it foreshadows what they do hundreds of years later.
Exactly. It's just like this is like the perfect origin, and I was like, yeah, I read a lot about this episode, and Danny McBride said that the idea kind of came to him because he was listening to an audiobook about the Civil War, and like a part of it mentioned chaplains at the time, and he's like, I didn't even think about that as an actual job people had, and still have during times of war, and so
Mhm.
that was what gave him the idea, and he wanted and the thing is, when this episode started, I was like, "Oh, this is a really cool intro." I was not expecting it to be the full episode, to be a period piece, and to be just the origins of the first
Right.
Gemstone. It was a brilliant and a bold choice to start the final season that way. And like, I don't know if we'll see Elijah again in this season. We might be able to, another flashback. I don't, maybe like to see some of his early like ministry days. I don't know, well, but even if
Maybe.
this is all we get, I think this is just, and it's also, I mean, it points to, I know we were talking earlier just about how good a storyteller Danny McBride is. And this just shows his chops as a director, with the budget. Like you said, it felt like a really authentic period piece. It really captured the
He
atmosphere
reminded me
of
of.
it. Yeah.
I know that it's a different war, but I remember. Do you remember the movie The Patriot
Oh, yeah.
with
Yeah.
Mel
Yeah. Yeah.
Gibson?
Yeah. Yeah.
It
Yeah. Yeah.
reminded me of that, just the brutality
Yeah.
of the violence, but then they get wholesome almost with the feelings and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's I think a good comparison. It comes in that atmosphere, and yeah, because there are moments of like real levity and funny, and then like a brutal moment where he's just talking to one of his soldiers, and his head gets blown off, and like
Yeah.
and it doesn't
Yeah.
shy away from the violence there. That's again the brilliant thing about this show is like it is absurd in a lot of ways, and it's funny, and it's like but it's also like not afraid to tackle like the effects of violence
The
and the effects
God on
of
both sides,
power.
it's like
Yeah, yeah.
that's a topic because they saved his life from a executional
Hmm.
for the shooting just because he was a man of the cloth.
Yeah.
So that shows that they valued it just enough to have the clergy, but they were still fighting a war, so they still had to fight the war. And yeah, so like you said, yeah, it shows the struggles of that time,
Oh,
and
very much
which
so.
I was not expecting to see from the Righteous Gemstones.
No, not at all. And that's what I love about the show.
Mm,
It continually to surprise you, and yeah, I'm gonna miss it when it's gone. Like I am. I mean, I know, like, because that was the other thing. When they announced it would be the final season, like he didn't even tell the cast until about they were filming the last episodes because he didn't want to like them to be in the mindset
Cool.
the whole time.
Cool.
But I respected his shit. Like he chose to end on his own terms. Like they've had like the cast, you can hear them talk about like how much fun they have making it, and it's been like a huge passion project. But like like as much as I love the show, I mean, it's like Eli is getting older. Like I don't. It's one I don't want to go on forever and it like run out of ideas because like I really like how they
Yeah.
structured each season and
Same.
they give a good different villain each time and they've really developed the characters. So I think it's smart to do quality over quantity. But nonetheless, I will miss it. But yeah, exactly. It just like continues to surprise you and have just like these really sincere themes and characters that balance the absurd comedy and humor of it. And yeah, this episode I thought was just one of the best. And Bradley Cooper was fantastic. I am really stoked for where the season now because I think now, as far as obviously since this episode took place entirely in this era, we don't really know much about what plot line it'll follow once we get back to our our main cast of characters here.
Yeah,
But I
because there's
think
so many threads. Yeah.
there's a lot of threads to conclude, but I think the like one thing we will see is it's been teased I think in the trailer is that gold Bible that I think that's like a family emblem, and so that
what if they make it like the Pulp Fiction suitcase or something?
Exactly.
That'll be
Yes.
great.
Yes. Yeah. It could be that. It could be its own MacGuffin. Like we'll see. So I'm looking forward to that. But yeah. But it's a great episode. Yeah. I mean, I know that was spoilers, but even then, even if you're listening to this and you haven't watched the show, I highly recommend go and check it out because it is just like, it's funny. It's like sincere. It has one of my favorite just ensembles, I think, in TV in a while, and it's a great show all around. So yeah. But anything else you want to say on this premiere, or like just Righteous Episodes?
I'm looking forward to it. I'm
Same.
looking forward to the rest of the season. And like you said, I'm glad it's a HBO series in the sense that it's going to have some closure, that it's not going to go on for 25 seasons,
Mm-hmm.
I kind of like, you kind of make your point and then you're done. So that's great.
Because it also makes me excited for what Danny McBride's going to do next. Like, same with Bill Hader with Barry. Like Barry was brilliant, and I'm still waiting on what Bill Hader is doing. Oh my gosh. Like, that's the thing. I'm still waiting to see what Bill Hader does next, because like Bill Hader and Danny McBride, both great examples of like comic actors who are brilliant filmmakers, and I want to see that like whether they'll do another show next or a movie or what. But like I'm all for like they're I think some of my favorite creators today.
Right.
Sweet. Awesome.
All right.
Sweet. Well, let us get on to Daredevil then. Pull up the slides.
Daredevil there.
Perfect.
There we go.
But it doesn't. That art looks beautiful. So
right, it's cool.
Yes. Oh, I like it. So, and fair warning, this is another. We're going to get into heavy spoilers here. As of recording, there are 3 episodes out so far. This is Daredevil Born Again, which is a continuation. This is the first thing we'll talk about is that this is a continuation of the Netflix series. I know when they announced that Daredevil was coming back, and they had Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio there from the beginning, but there was like I think initially they were trying to do like a full reboot, and then they eventually pivoted toward making all the Netflix shows canon, and this be a continuation, and still be kind of a soft reboot and a like jumping on point, but all the events preceding were canon, and this picks up a few years later. So yeah, I mean, I'll just go ahead and say that like Daredevil is my favorite Marvel character. As you can see, if you're watching on YouTube and you see my description here, I have met Charlie Cox. I met him at a con last year, and then I've also met Deborah Ann Wool, who plays Karen, and John Bernthal, who plays Punisher. So I got pictures with all of them. Nicest people. I was beyond stoked because I love the original Netflix series. I was super excited for this series to come back and what it would do. So, and right off the bat, it opens with a banger here. But like, do you want to give a little bit about what happens in the premiere and the episode so far?
Yeah.
And feel free to talk about too, like your background with the character or the series.
Sure. Yeah. It's crazy to think it's been, I think, around 10 years since the first premiere of the Netflix project. I remember that going around when this premiered out on Netflix, and it's a reboot on Disney Plus. Kind of, they are they continue it like you said, and what happens in this season, it's a continuation. Like things are happy, like things are in a good place. They are at a bar, and Foggy's making moves on a girl.
Yeah.
Matt and everyone, they are just chilling, and they introduce some new characters and stuff, which I think was new characters because I don't remember them from the beginning. Like the guy with the glasses,
Yeah, he
uh,
is like like
um,
he's like a
uh,
retired cop. And
yeah,
this guy the environment there.
yeah,
Yeah. So he
okay,
is one they brought in for Born Again.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. Well, then they're in a bar, and then Foggy takes a call, and it looks it's kind of serious because his little spidey sense, because Matt's spidey sense goes off essentially, and I love how the aspect ratio got big, and if he got big but then got small at the same time, and then you could tell that he was trying to focus on Foggy's phone conversation, and it turns out there's a client that he had that he's trying to protect, that he's trying to bunker in his home or in his apartment, that has some bad guys on his tail. And then they all go outside, and they start to talk about it. They were a client, and then they're like, why'd you do that? And then out of nowhere, boom, Foggy gets shot right through the chest, blood flying everywhere. Um, then Matt will take off, and it turns out it's Bullseye. Bullseye is still alive. There's some things that happen later, like he has some powers now that he can probably not die from things now because of the surgery. But there's a fight, and it's a good callback to the first fights of the first season and the ones after that, where they, instead of going down a building, they go up a building, kind of like the movie Raid. They go up a building, and then they fight on the top, and then Foggy ends up dying, and then Matt, as a Daredevil, throws Bullseye, just kind of like flicks him off the top, and you see it all, and he splats on the floor. And I was like, oh, this is how it's going. All right.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And then from there, it's the whole political drama. We learned that that Fisk is coming back. That Vanessa has been running the business while Fisk has been away with the stuff from the Hawkeye series and the Echo series. Yes.
Yeah.
He was doing that, and he's a changed man now, and he wants to run for governor or for mayor of New York. And there's a little bit of a tension there between him and Vanessa, and then it goes a year later, and Matt is he's the lawyer again, and he has some new partners. What's her face is in California, I think it was.
Yes, Karen. Yeah. Like, Karen's there, and then and then Kirsten, his new partner, Kirsten McDuffie, who she's from the comics too, is his new partner, and so they because after the opening scene, it jumps a year forward, and it's like, so him and Karen aren't working together anymore because it's clear that like Matt hit rock bottom after Foggy's death, and his guy started over, and it's like put distance between them, and so now he's starting a new firm with Kirsten, and new love interest develops, and Fisk does become mayor, and oh man, that the scene between that. I know it was teased in the trailers, but between them at the diner was just one of the best. They
What
get
a
their like,
scene.
they get their like heat moment, where it's just the
Exactly.
two of them talking, and like, it's in some ways even better than a lot of the fight scenes we've seen before. I mean, that was just such a like tense where they each say to each other like, if you step up, like I'm coming after you, and like because
Mhm.
at this point Matt has put behind the Daredevil alias, and is
Yeah.
trying to just like do everything as a lawyer, and I want to talk about that first. Like, so okay, so the title is Born
Mhm.
Again, which is a callback to an iconic Frank Miller story in the comics, which I knew this series wasn't going to be an adaptation of that, because they kind of already did a loose adaptation of it in season 3 of the original Netflix series, along with like Guardian Devil there. But like the title was more to indicate that like, okay, Daredevil's back. Like this is like a reboot of like him being really brought into the MCU. And it just
Yeah.
worked as a title, but it also speaks to he does put Daredevil behind him after he promises that he's not going to do it again after Foggy's death because he blames himself, which is a classic thing we've seen in a lot of superhero stories before. But that's my only thing is like I expected him to put on the suit a little earlier, because now we're 3 episodes in and he still hasn't returned. It's been so far more of a courtroom drama. So what do you think about that approach? I mean, I think it's going to happen soon, but still, it is a bold thing to have it be sort of a Matt Murdock story for a while there, especially since it's been a while since we've seen Daredevil. But
Yeah.
how do you feel about that approach?
I kind of feel I'm gonna do a parallel to The Last Jedi, and like where we
Okay, yeah,
don't
yeah.
see Luke being Luke Skywalker. It's just like,
Right,
hey,
right.
we're here to see Daredevil. We did see the fight between him and
Mm-hmm,
Bullseye,
mm-hmm,
which was
mm-hmm.
amazing. And my wife goes, "Wait a minute, can he fly now?" Because he was using his baton things, and I was like, "No, no, no. He's got these cool sticks with like the metal line on them and stuff like that."
Yeah, yeah.
And but yeah, I was thinking that too. That this show is taking the swing of not having him be Daredevil for at least a good chunk. So
Mhm.
um, I like what they've done. His very typical Matt. He's like he takes things to the extreme, and that's what he does, and to me that was in line with his character. So,
Mhm.
and I like how it's giving us, or it it's him not being Daredevil in the suit is letting us get into a glimpse as to what he's been doing and how he's been living since we've done since the death of Foggy and since we last left him. And and it's kind of good to see the new, that he's the same old, but at the end of the second episode, I was like, I'm pretty sure he's straight up, because I've never seen the third episode yet. So I'm on the
Okay.
first
Oh,
two. Sorry, it's fine. Um, but right now, I'm pretty sure he straight up killed those two thugs in the apartment. So I'm like, so technically Daredevil doesn't kill people, but
mhm.
Matt Murdock does apparently. So okay, that's where we're at, I guess.
That was a pretty brutal fight, and like I won't spoil what happens there,
Crazy
but like
fight.
I'm glad you said you haven't seen episode 3 yet, because I was about to drop a major spoiler about that, so I will
Okay,
refrain
okay.
there. But one of the things it looks at too is there's another vigilante character from the comics called the White Tiger, that is like being
Yeah, that's
that
right.
he's arrested because he was involved in a scene where a cop was killed, and like he didn't do it, but he's being kind of like framed and opposed by the NYPD. And now with
Hmm.
Fisk as mayor, Fisk is running a very anti-vigilante campaign. So
Right.
that provides a really interesting dynamic as well. But all that said, I won't spoil what happens in episode 3, but it does indicate that it's pushing Matt closer to reviving Daredevil very soon. But overall, I mean, I'm thoroughly enjoying. I mean, granted, like I said, Daredevil is my favorite Marvel character, so it's not that hard to please me with a character like this. Like, I mean, you just put him in the show is back and you've got Charlie Cox there. I'm happy. But so far, like I like how it builds on everything that's happened within the original series. But still tells kind of a fresh story here, and I like that we're seeing new characters too.
Yes. I like the new characters because it gives a chance to connect to the bigger MCU. Because what I took away from the show was it still has the gritty street level kind of feel to it, like the previous Netflix show did, but it has this kind of polish. It has this kind of style to it, where that kind of matches and that makes it fit into the MCU now, because the MCU movies, they are very much cut from the same cloth. Like they've created a style basically, and I think this fits very well into that. And I look very much forward to see the kind of connections that they make between the two series, because I remember I had the hopes of them doing it when it was on Netflix, but it was the TV team and the movie team for Marvel. They had some drama and they didn't like to connect and stuff like that. So there was no hope there. But now I think there's going to be hope where, sure, Thor's probably not going to come down and save the day, but there's going to be feelings a part of it and stuff like that. And I'm picking up on the setup because I could tell from the first episode and the second episode that there was going to be a completely different show, but the way they blended it together was perfect. The way that the first episode ended, and then from what I heard, the second episode was pretty much going to be the premiere show of the show. So the way they blended that together was beautiful. I was like, right on. They made it so cohesive and I'm kind of disappointed that we got the main three and then now we don't have the main three, but they still live on in his decisions as Matt Murdock. And I'm starting to see the fingerprints of the writers and the directors. They're the guys. If you haven't, I'm going to do a shameless plug for a previous episode that I did with our guy Will Rose on The Endless. It's a sci-fi show from the same directors, and it is. I could see that on the bigger scale here now with the characters, and I'm loving it. I'm totally loving this. So I never had a big attachment to Daredevil. I didn't know about him until I seen him, but I didn't know about him until the Netflix series. But I'm glad they are putting this kind of power behind Daredevil.
100%. And no, I'm so glad you brought up Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead. Like, The Endless is a great movie. And so they directed the pilot and they're listed as executive producers throughout the show. So I think they're big creative forces here because they were also directors on Moon Knight. So they've been with Marvel for a while. I think between them, and Loki. And so between them and then the Newton brothers doing the soundtrack, it's just like, you've got some great talent here. And that is the cool. I like how they did it like we were talking about earlier, they originally had it as a full reboot. And like you said, the second episode was going to be the premiere originally. But they made it really cohesive. And I like that they gave that, even if, like I said, it's short-lived of like seeing the original trio that we love. Like, oh yay, Foggy and Karen are back, and Foggy's not, and then Karen's gonna go. It was brutal, but it also like it works as I think a good story beat to kind of like set the series in motion. And and I liked that they still got to pay homage to them and also recognize that it is moving forward. Like the way because a friend was asking me because he's seen a lot of the Netflix series but hasn't seen all of it, and like he wants to check this out, but he's like, can I jump onto this without having seen all of it? And I said yes, because I compare this to like when they change creators for a new comic run of the same character.
Yeah.
Like everything that came before is still canon, but you get a new creative team and a new direction. That's a lot what this feels like. So yeah, you get the same characters, and so I think they're handling it really well. But yeah, I'm glad you said you haven't seen episode 3, so I will not spoil what happens there. But I'm really enjoying it so far. I just love seeing these characters back, and yeah, Daredevil is someone I've loved for a long time. I think I was initially introduced in the 90s Spider-Man animated series. And then he quickly became one of my favorite comic characters. And
that is a good point, because I don't remember him from that show. I remember that show. I remember watching it. For some reason, he went over my head for some reason, I guess.
Dude, go back and watch on Disney Plus. Like, he's in several episodes there, but like, it's a great, yeah. And I mean, Charlie Cox says, what you said about this is definitely bringing in the larger MCU. Like, they've dropped Spider-Man references and everything.
Yeah.
And obviously Punisher is back here. But like Charlie Cox has said for a long time, like he would love to team up with Tom Holland in a Spider-Man movie and fight Kingpin together, or do some street level.
Oh.
It'd be awesome. It would be awesome. Yeah. So they,
to tie in our both topics today, I realized as I was watching the Daredevil, the episodes of Daredevil, both of these two shows feature prominent large white men in white suits.
That's interesting. Power hungry moguls here. There you go.
There you go. I was
and also when you think about a criminal becoming a politician who's like has all this history, like, I mean, I don't know how that's relatable in today's world, but but yeah, I'll save that for another time. But but I do think that is very intentional too, and like also the Mayor Fisk run in the comics came out during Trump's first presidential term, so it is not a mistake at all that there are a million comparisons there. But yeah, so it is But yeah, no, I mean, I love Daredevil. I'm thoroughly enjoying this so far. So I am ready to see him suit up. So I hope it won't take too much longer.
And they put the D's on his chest, maybe?
Yes,
who knows?
Yeah.
That would be great, finally. I was a little skeptical though in that opening fight. I noticed it could have been my frame rate on my TV or something maybe, but I think they were CG for a lot of it, and I was like, I don't like that. I don't like that at all. I hope that's just that they didn't have time to do it or something. And I'm Okay. I want some real gritty action. Sure, you can have special effects and you can do the oneers that they're not really oneers, but they are oneers. I love that, but I don't want to have the whole Black Panther effect thing going on.
I agree. I mean, Daredevil especially is very street level. Like, I want to see that. And they did such a phenomenal job with the fight scenes in the original. Like, I do want to see more of that. So I agree.
So yeah.
Sweet. Awesome. Well, Evan, before we wrap up, do you have any recommendations either related to these topics, or it could be something totally different?
Recommendations, I say to watch that Netflix season again, because they're on Disney Plus, and we are just about to finish them up, because my wife, we were on season 3 and then we started watching this, and then that made her go back and watch and to finish that season. So yeah, just kind of watch that and keep a lookout on the output of the systematic geekology, because I think we're putting out some good stuff. Yeah.
I love it. Josh will give you bonus points for plugging our podcast and recommendations. But yeah, and I will recommend for the comics. the Daredevil run by Mark Waid and Chris Samney, other artists too, but they were kind of the main ones. That's one of my favorites. And if you're looking for a story that is like, it still has like all that Cosmic General stuff, but is also has more levity to it. And you get to see a lot of fun villains there. You get to see characters from this series in there. So Kirsten McDuffie is a prominent player there. It's a great run. That's some of my favorite Daredevil stories, and he did it. I mean, he wrote that book for years, so that's one of my favorites. I mean, I love, I mean, the Frank Miller stuff was classic, and he, really reinvented the character and is responsible for, particularly this adaptation. But Mark Waid's run is one of my favorites, so I highly recommend that.
That's cool. Yeah. I'm thinking about getting back into comics now that I'm with all you guys, because I haven't read comics since like 2015. I had to kind of put them down, but I was just going through my phone because I listened to, I don't remember the podcast, but they were interviewing the writers and the directors for this, and there weren't any spoilers, but it was really good. But I don't remember the podcast that it was on, but
I'll look it up because they've done a bunch of interviews lately, but there's a lot. That's really cool. So sweet,
cool.
Awesome. Well, Evan, pleasure as always. This was a blast. So this concludes our latest What's News episode. Man. Oh, it was awesome. But yeah, sweet. Well, and for our listeners up there, thank you so much to our Patreons. We really appreciate the support. And even if you can't give anything there, just share the show with your friends, like. Whether you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or on YouTube, wherever you get it, just leave us a review. It really helps, and we appreciate your support. So remember, we are all a chosen people, a geekdom of priests. We will see you next time.
Peace.